What up, family? It's your boy, Black Innovator here. I want to talk to you about some things I've learned over the course over doing business as a real estate investor, some of the do's and don'ts, and how I made my first million, right, as a real estate investor. Well, just to be real brief about my story, got out of the Navy in 97, went to school, to college in Chicago for occupational therapy, got off into the real estate game, right? The money started getting good, and then eventually took a break from school, and I'm still on break. So that was 1999. So eventually I get back. But what we used to do in real estate, we used to do several different things of how we go by acquiring the properties, right? What we do, one of the things is I prefer personally to deal directly with the owner. We didn't deal with realtors. I call realtors gatekeepers. We call even lawyers and realtors are gatekeepers. So if all means possible, if you can find somebody or deal directly with the owner, that increases your chance of getting a property, better negotiating terms, stuff like that. And just let me put this disclaimer out here. I've been out of the game a long time, in the real estate game, so it's changed considerably. I don't necessarily, this is not advice about what's going on now. The dynamics have changed and everything has changed. So I'm just sharing my story. You can take the nuggets and, what we say, chew the meat, spit out the bones, right? So one of the ways we should negotiate the deals and get the deals done is what we do as called as a sign on the contract, which simply means that what you do is you take the contract and you write it up in such a way that you say, or as a sign. So I will put my name as the buyer, right, with the seller, and I would say Freeman Fields, or as a sign, which means I'm able to assign this contract to someone else, right? Now, keep in mind, you gotta, know the laws and the rules of your state and all that type of stuff. But like I said, I don't know if it's applicable now, but this is where we used to do it back then in Chicago. We used to do it as a sign. So we was essentially able to take that contract and assign it to another buyer. So that buyer was able to basically buy the contract, the end buyer. We call it end buyer. So what we would do was called a double closing. Some of your old heads probably familiar with that term. So I'm gonna give you an actual case that I did, an actual deal that I did. It was a lady, can't recall her name. She had a property she was selling for $95,000. Well, I knew the property was worth considerably more. So what I did was I put a contract on there, or as a sign. And what I was able to do was, and I was able to find an end buyer because I had loan officers that I had connections with throughout the city, right? And they was able to send me qualified buyers, right? So they was able to send me qualified buyers, and you got to be careful because they got this law now called arm's length transactions. So, they put all these different rules and regulations to try to stop us from making money. We was making so much money. And so they came up with this rule called arm's length transaction, which means that, arm's length, you couldn't be too close to the loan officer. You couldn't be too close to the realtor. The parties had to be separate, right? And so they stopped putting these regulations. But this was before all this. This was even before loan officers were required to get a license, which was crazy to me. I thought a realtor had to be licensed, but a loan officer, hey, I can give you all my personal financial information. Hey, it's gravy, right? But a realtor to show me a house, you had to be licensed. But so make a long story short, in early 2000, they changed a lot of different things. But at the time, we had a loan officers. They would send me the property, and what we would do is we would do a double closing. So essentially, I'd be in one office closing the deal for the $95,000, that particular property, and I had a buyer in the next office that bought the property from me for $150,000. So I essentially was able to go ahead and close the deal here, walk to the next office, the next room, and sell that same property for 150,000. Now, to make it perfectly legal, uh, at the time, all I had to do was put the earnest money down. So now I'm not an agent, I'm not a realtor, because I have actually bought. I mean, I've actually put earnest money towards the property to secure the property on my behalf. But because of that term, or as a sign, I was able to relinquish my ownership even before taking full ownership over to that property. I mean, of that property. Okay, so that's one. That's one element, right? Then we would, so we started doing different things. Another element is to obviously go directly to the bank, the REOs, right? The banks, REOs called real estate owned properties, right? So REOs. So they were now banks. They are. It looks bad for them to have things on the books, bad loans. So they would definitely want to get rid of any bad loan, anything on the book that they have, right? So they already got paid in a sense for that property being a write-off because it's a loss. So they was able to write it off. So therefore, and then not to mention, the FDI, different kind of insurance and all that kind of stuff they have on the money. So they got different safety measures in place to protect them with that property. So the REO now is more so a liability. That particular property is a liability. So if you can get with the bank, and then I think I don't remember when this law came in place, right? But I think a lot of different states cut it off to where you got to now go through a real estate agent, because we were going directly to the bank at the time. So check with that to make sure. But at the time, we was able to call the bank up and say, hey, we want to list your REOs, send them over to us, So, but I had one particular bank called Aquin Bank. Aquin Bank. I don't know if they're still in business. I used to love this bank. They would send me properties. I used to buy properties from them, and the beauty of it is they would actually do work to the property. They would. I've bought a property for them. One particular property, bought it for, at the time. Oh man, sweet, $35,000, in which they actually put work into it. They fixed it up, so it was pretty much almost ready to go. But yeah, so you want to either get with a bank. Well, let's look into it. I don't know. Like I said, the laws have changed considerably. And we prefer not to deal with realtors, like I just mentioned. We prefer to deal directly with owners and not the gatekeepers. But if a realtor can get you the REO and get you that listing, that is something that you want to obtain. So if you want to, get the access to the bank and you have to go to a realtor, hey, it's worth it, right? So now the key is, the major thing I learned is the key is negotiation. The key is negotiation, right? I've actually had, once you become confident in your negotiation. So if you have obtained how you're going to finance the property, right? Like either through a loan or whatever, or either private investors. So we had private investors, and we had, well, I didn't do too much loans. I always used my money or a private investors. And I'll get into later on about what I learned about the benefits of using other people's money, the loan money. So that was one of my the don'ts I'm gonna tell you about. Always use other people's money if you can. So, where was I? So basically, once you have identified how you're going to pay for the property, like I say, either your 401k, you're going to get a loan, you're going to, whatever you're going to do, you're going to get an investor. Once you identify, then now you're coming in with a point of confidence, because I've negotiated properties and didn't have a dime. But I was so confident because I have had experience. So when things got hard so negotiation is key. Negotiation, how you negotiate the deal. I actually, many of y'all might not believe this, I actually had and then timing. Timing is everything too. Because like I'm talking about now, the timing, the properties is skyrocketing from what I hear is off the chain. So it's all about timing as well, right? So I've actually negotiated a property. It was on 102nd and Perry in Chicago, I believe, 102nd, 103rd, something around. It was a 4-unit building. A 4-unit building, beautiful building, but was in one of the roughest neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. When I tell you, this neighborhood was rough. So the elderly lady who owned the property, she was just fed up. Her sons, she had two twin sons, and they had started clothing selling like a clothing store line, clothing business, right? So they didn't want to do with real estate. And I don't even know how I ran across her, but our paths crossed. And this lady, this sweet lady, Miss Payne was her name, Miss Payne. This sweet lady, she actually paid me $25,000 to take over this property. Yes. So I was able to secure the property, and because I didn't want the property because of the neighborhood. I didn't want to deal with it. I said, I'm busy, this and that. The negotiation went like, how much would you take to take this property? That was because I didn't want the property. I didn't want it. It was such a rough neighborhood that I just didn't want to deal with it. Right? I had a lot of things going on, and so it went from hey, I'll give you $10,000 to somebody offers you $25,000 to take a property off of their hands. I mean, hey, unless it's in the belly of hell, I had to at least try. So so it was great. We did the deal, and I was able to I renovated. There's only 2 units that needed renovation, but it and growing up in the streets of Chicago, ran with the gangs, and just being involved in the street pharmaceutical early on in my life, I had to let that property go. I had to eventually dump it off to someone else because it was just too much. I mean, when I tell you it was rough, I mean, I was in the middle of a gunfight right outside of the building, dead smack in the middle. So I just say I can't go to little Vietnam to collect the rent so but I'm just telling you how it could be done, right? How it can be done through negotiation. Now, another thing that I learned that is golden, look this up, it's 2 things basically. It's called land contract. Land contract is when you purchase a building where the owner is basically financing you. So you got land contract and you got owner financing. They're different. They sound the same, but they both involve dealing directly with the owner as the source. I purchased a 6-unit building, beautiful building, 6-flat building, 61st and Vernon in the city of Chicago, and Woodlawn area. Woodlawn is an up-and-coming area. Once again, this was a friend of a family. She was having such a hard time with the building because she had been sued by a previous tenant, and the landlord-tenant laws in Chicago are so one-sided. The landlord basically have no rights because of the slum laws that went on in the 60s and the 70s, right? They changed the laws. So a tenant can sue you just on a whim. I've been sued by tenants, just, hey, I don't want to pay rent, I'm sue my landlord. So this was what she was dealing with, this 6-flat building, right? And I tell you, this building was beautiful. And so she had a deal on the table that she was trying to sell it. It fell through. Every deal fell through. So I said, Lord, this deal must be for me. This must be my deal, right? So, make a long story short, she came to me, and she negotiate the terms, right? I said, I can only do it through land contract, right? For a 6-unit building, I think I paid $230,000 for this building. I mean, it had 6 units in it. Now, let me tell you about this deal. It had 6 units, 6 apartments, right? It had 5 2-bedrooms and 1 3-bedrooms. The apartment were massive. The apartments were like, I think it was like 1,800 to 1,900 square feet for the 2 bedrooms. My 3-bedroom was like, I think it was like maybe 2,200 square feet. Right? This is 20, back, almost 20 years ago. It was about 2002 when we did this deal. So basically, I bought the deal. We negotiate the terms. I put $10,000 down. $10,000 down, cash money, for the purchase of this building on a land contract. Now, if any of you all know about commercial, because anything's over a 4-unit is considered commercial. So residential, if you buy a 4-unit building, which means 4 apartments, that means it's just like buying a house. It's residential. But once you get into the 5 units and 6 units, you'll get into commercial. It's a whole nother level of ball game when it comes to financing, because you're commercially financing the property. So the down payment, the requirements, everything is different. So to put $10,000 down on a 6-unit building is unheard of. But wait till you know how they do it in the infomercial. But wait, there's more, right? So I put $10,000 down. We closed the deal. It was a 2-year contract. It was a 2-year contract for a land contract, 2 years contract with a 1-year guarantee extension. So it means after 3 years, I was supposed to finance. It was like a balloon payment at the end of 3 years. So, but see, it's 2 years the contract. But I threw that extra 1 year needed just in case I needed, which I already anticipated I was going to do 3 years, because the deal, the terms were so sweet. My monthly payment on that 6-unit building was only $1,500 a month. Yes, $1,500 a month, and which means one of my apartments pretty much paid for that was including the taxes on the property. And I stayed in one of the units myself. So here it is. I have 5 units that's paying me rent, right? And I'm paying $1,500 a month, including the taxes on a commercial 6-unit building, right? In the prime area in Woodlawn, Chicago. Right. So how did that deal wind up? How did that deal end up? Now, I'm sorry. There's more. So it was 6%. I need to try to find this contract because you all not gonna believe me. It was 6% simple interest. So you have compound interest. You got what's it called? Amortization, amortized interest, or amortization. I know I'm not saying it right, but that's over 30 years. And then you got simple interest, means like if it's $230,000, 6% of that is what you're going to pay at the end of the term, whether or not it's 2 years, 3 years, 100 years, right? So it was $230,000, 6% simple interest. So by the time after the 3 years was up, I had paid and so the way we structured it, a portion goes towards the interest each month, and the other portion goes towards the principal. So it wasn't all the money didn't even apply that I paid to the interest of the property. Which, if you are purchasing a home, for you all who have home, you all know that the first 30-year mortgage, the first 20, maybe 20, I say maybe 15, 20 years, is pretty much going towards the interest. Vast majority going towards the interest of the property, right? So to have in 3 years to pay, I think I paid off like $20,000 towards the principal of the property in 3 years. Think about that. 3 years on a 6-unit building in the middle, the heart of Chicago, right? So when it was all said and done, so after the 3 years was up, now it's time for me to figure out what I'm going to do with the property, right? I can either sell it, because when you have a property by land contract, it is your property. You own that property, right? But it's like they're the bank, just like owner financing. If you do owner finances, which is essentially the same thing, but it's slightly different, but I explained it later. But when you own a finance with the owner, you basically in ownership on paper. So I could have sold it, refinanced it, did whatever I want to do with the property within that time frame. So I eventually sold the property after paying it off, $20,000 interest. After accumulating, now keep in mind I'm getting this money over the course of 3 years monthly, right? So after all that had occurred in the final 3 years, I finally sold the building. I think I sold it for like $260, $270, something like that. So because obviously the equity had went up, it had went up in considerably because they was building in this area, and just amazing in 3 years what had happened. So that's another way, owner financing, right? Owner financing. Now, what else? So you want to make sure that you open up to all range of negotiation when you're doing a deal. You want to use other people's money, right? This was a hard lesson learned, right? I got one more scenario that I want to run by you. I had purchased a 12-unit building. I had started to get off into commercial properties after buying a 6-unit. I liked how it felt, so I purchased a 12-unit building. I purchased a 12-unit building on Dobson, which is in Chatham, Chicago area, right? Which is a prominent black area. It's kind of like in Atlanta, the Buckhead area of Atlanta. Well, I wouldn't go that far and say Buckhead, but it's a prominent area in Chicago. I purchased a 12-unit building that was $150,000. Yes, 12-unit building for $150,000. But at the time, I was so extended, I couldn't even get the $150,000. So this is why, the problem was I wasn't using other people's money. So here it is. This is why I say the importance of other people's money. What happened was I had all these properties, right? The various areas of Chicago. Had cash flow on some of them because I was a flipper. I was a flipper. That 6-unit building was the first time I ever bought something that I actually had a revenue stream coming in. I was a flipper, which means I bought the properties, rehabbed them, and flipped them and sold them. I loved it because I didn't want to deal with the landlord tenants at that time. I didn't want to deal with. I knew how strict the laws and the rules were in the city of Chicago. So this 12-unit building comes my way. I'm so cash poor, if you will, right? Keep in mind, I'm using my money. That's what I keep telling you. This is the don't use your money. If you can avoid, the name of the game is to keep as much of your money in the bank as possible. This is a hard lesson I learned. So when this sweetheart deal, this 12-unit building falls in my lap for $150,000, I am so cash poor, but property rich. I'm equity and property rich. I got properties all over, but what could I do? So here I am. I'm trying to refinance, but once again, because I haven't established credit. Too. Now keep in mind, using other people's money means you're establishing credit. I have never really used established credit. because I've always used my money, or not use other people's money, but I mean I use investors' money, people who were investors, right? Just so happened all the investors I had dealt with were either tied up on other deals or whatever, So they, make a long story short, so I was about to lose this sweetheart deal, and entered the deal with the devil, if you will, like that. But just no other way to put it. The deal with the devil. I'm not going to say the name, but he know who he is. And I had put up all this different equity. I put up almost like at the time, me and a partner of mine, we put up like almost over $1 million in equity to secure $150,000. Now, that just seemed absurd, right? Well, I'm saying all this to say, well, thank God we eventually sold the property and this and that. It was hang up. They didn't make no money off the deal, but we eventually got rid of it. But it taught me a valuable lesson of using other people's money. So if you want to get in this game, establish your credit, establish your, some type of financial inlet where you can get revenue. Now, another thing I learned was the partner who I partnered up with, right, to buy that property. He taught me a valuable lesson because, as I mentioned prior, I was a flipper, which means I bought the property, I flipped the property, bought them and sold them. Hey, I just love the fact when it's all said and done, I close the deal, I'll walk away with a $75,000 check or $100,000. I love that. You see what I'm saying? So, but to make a long story short, so what he did, he would buy his properties cash or through a lending source, because he actually owned a loan officing company. So he had, plenty of lending sources. He was one of my main providers of back end buyers. So what he did that was distinctly different from me. He bought the properties, and then he would either cash or mostly a lot of time cash. Then he would refinance the properties, right? Take off his money back, and then a little extra on top to do the rehab or whatever have you, and then probably put in his pocket. So he still had equity in the property. So here it is. He put his money down. He refinanced, got his money back, which he also got the money to rehab the property, and sometime a little bit in his pocket. Even if he didn't get anything in his pocket, he has this property that he, is basically sitting there as rehab, and he can do what he wants. And he still got equity to sell the property. So it wasn't even about him getting the money in his pocket for the initially, but he had options. So then what he would do, he will rent the properties out until he decided to sell them or whatever. Now, he and I argued many times about. I said, man, no, his last name Jackson. No, Jackson, oh no, man, I'm not finna do that, man. I don't want to be bothered with no landlords. And he kept trying to tell me, right? So what happened when the market crashed? Which God showed me that the market was going to crash, and this was maybe mid 2000s, maybe 2006 or 7, right? He told me the market was going to crash, but yet the money got good to me. Basically, I had got caught up with the spirit of greed. Didn't want to let the money go. So even when God showed me the market crashing, I was telling people, and God showed me the market's about to crash, the market's about to take a dip. I still refuse to pull out because the money was so good. So when the market crashed, here it is. Because keep in mind, I have transitioned from residential properties to commercial properties, which is like 5 times harder to get rid of. So not only was I upside down on a lot of the properties, I was stuck with some properties that I really had to, bite the bullet on. But on the flip side, my buddy Jackson, he cool. He's great because he didn't have all his money tied up. He didn't have all his money tied up. And not only that, he had a steady stream of income. He had a steady stream of income because he had rented his properties out. I applied what I learned about the steady income when I moved here in 2010 to the point where wasn't even so concerned about owning the property. I kind of did a reverse. I wasn't even so concerned about owning the property as opposed to the steady income that comes from the property. I founded a company, me and a former friend of mine, called Rooms ATL, where we didn't even actually own the property, but what we did was we leased the properties and then we sublet them. It's known as rooming houses. So Rooms ATL was essentially turning homes into a hotel. So but we started a company without even actually owning the properties, and we kind of grew it into making considerable amount of money per month. That's what I'm saying. I hope you can glean from this. The first thing is is listen to God. When God tell you something, listen. But another thing is that the two things, you can just glean 2 or 3 things from what I'm saying. One is the key is negotiation, right? The first thing is key is negotiation. Negotiation is key. However you negotiate the deal. Another thing is other people's money, right? Use other people's money. That is golden. It's, like I said, it's not about how much money that you have on paper. It's how much money you got in the bank. Because essentially, I was a millionaire on paper, multi-millionaire on paper because of all the properties we had. But cash-wise, I was so extended cash-wise, I was limited what I can do. And third is stream of income. Stream of income. It's imperative that you get that steady stream of income. I often say, as long as you got money coming in, you can do some things. But ain't no money coming in, ain't nothing happening. So that's your word today, tailored word today. I hope you enjoy it. Please like this channel if you like it. So we're going to come at you with more business in the Bible. God bless.